Hello and welcome back to this episode of the Law of Relevancy podcast. Today we're joined by the president of TeamLogic IT, Don Zurbrick.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Doing great, Don. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Well, you're our first interview in our CEO Council Diamond Sponsors interview series.
I feel special.
Well, we're happy to have you. You know, you've got a business that applies to many of the businesses that are in the CEO Council. With it being a B2B business, there's quite a lot of businesses in there that do serve other businesses.
Definitely. I actually have a few members already that were our customers.
One of the things that I learned about your business when I was doing the research is that you guys are actually growing way faster. Out of 270 franchises in the TeamLogic IT network across the country, you guys have been the top growth organization 2 years in a row and maybe now 3 years in a row?
Correct. Yeah. We've grown. I think I figured it out the other day because I was doing, I applied for Inc. 5000 and it figured out to be over the last 3 years, we've had about 1,200% growth.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. It's been fun.
And the fact that you've made it repeatable, well, how can we learn from you on how to do that?
It's one of those things. They tell you to go find something you love. And, that's one of the things I've always liked tech. Haven't always agreed with the way former employers did certain things and kind of wanted to do it a little different. And so I've really just taken what I've learned over the years and incorporated it. And then as we've hired people, I'm very big on, like with my engineers, I want them to be empathetic. Mm-hmm. Tech skills can be taught. Empathy can't. So that's one of the first things that we'll look for in an engineer. And it's interesting when we do surveys, right? So our net promoter score for our surveys, we're consistently in the 90s,
wow.
Which is,
no wonder you're growing. That's
right.
Huge. Anybody that's read that book and knows about NPS scores,
right?
That's how you scale through referrals.
Exactly. And that's where I would say 7, 8 out of 10 of our clients have come from. We do get them from, Google searching, but majority of our customers have been referrals. And, one of the best stories was one of our largest customers, when we first took them on, they asked us for referrals and, they asked us for 3 and we provided 10. And what was funny about it is they come back to us and they're like, are you giving these guys scripts or, because they were all different size clients, they were from 5 users to 100 users. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what? He goes, we called out and they pretty much all said the same exact thing. And he goes, it was almost sounded scripted. And we're like, well, if we service our 5 user customer the same way we service a 100 user customer, you're going to get the same result.
Yeah, well, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that's really cool. And now you've been involved in IT for a while, and especially around the Tampa Bay area, you've worked with some of the biggest organizations in tech. You've worked for, obviously, Tech Data is famously from this area, Computer Associates, Bayshore Technology, 2 of the biggest
IT
technology
authorities.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so you've been around the block many times in the corporate IT world. So now you have your own business and you're doing it for yourself.
Yeah. One of the things that I look at starting with Tech Data and working, through CA and then working for Bayshore and then IT authorities is I got to see all facets of the business from distribution, from manufacturing side of the world, to the service provider side. So I get to see the whole, from beginning to end on, how manufacturers think, how distribution thinks, and how, the different service providers think. And I've been able to incorporate that. So even though in the grand scheme of things, we're small, you look at us next to a CDW or an Insight or we're a speck of, sand. Yet we can run circles around these guys because, I always talk about we're the little speedboat and they're the big Titanic, Sure. And they're not going to miss the iceberg where we can just kind of zoom around it. So, I feel like what my experience has done is helped us get, pricing where we need to be for our clients and then set expectations.
Yeah. And you've been in the salesperson seat for many of those roles, correct?
Yes.
But now you're actually having to get more involved because of your own business, correct?
Correct. I've always been the sales guy that wanted to understand what I sold. So
Sure.
when I did work for a service provider, a lot of the times we would do, projects and stuff. I would go on site and talk to the engineers and, hey, does this really work? Because God knows there's a lot of good marketing out there.
Well, you're going to have to answer to it if it doesn't, right? You're
Right.
the one they're going to call.
And that's where it is now is that, everything that we sell, everything that we do, I'm our only salesperson, right? I have, customer service people and project managers and all that stuff. But I'm in the opinion of, if I'm the salesperson, I'm not going to oversell the company.
Right.
Because it's just going to put me in a bad spot.
Expectation management is a very powerful thing.
100%.
And so would you recommend that? I mean, I would love to learn more about some of your journey to becoming an entrepreneur. Would you recommend being in sales before you try to start your own business?
Well, I've been in sales, but I've also been in other parts of the company. When I was with IT authorities, I was actually running their marketing and so and their lead generation and that piece. And I've been in other companies and been part of operations. So I kind of got my feet wet in a lot of different things. Sales obviously is very important. I feel like if you're a salesperson and you're running your own company, again, it forces you to be part of the company and very, integrated into what's going on and understanding what you're selling. Because it's every dollar spent, every dollar it's a dollar out of your pocket. It's no different than pulling out your own wallet and spending things. So you're more aware of things going on. And that reflects to the customer, right? So sales is always a very important skill. And I feel like, there's a lot of tech companies out there that an engineer, started the company and yeah, they've got some great technologies and stuff, but, they'll be more focused on that and not on the customer service side. But then the flip side is you get a salesperson, and that's all they want to do is sell, and they don't even understand what they're selling. So
right.
It's if you're going to do it, one of my big advantages too is my partner that I brought on in the beginning, he was very tech focused,
Sure,
but he had a little bit of sales, where I was more sales focused, but I had a little bit of tech, so, we partnered very well.
One of the things that I learned when I got into entrepreneurship was how important leadership was.
Oh, definitely.
And delegating. What has your experience been with leadership and how are you using it today?
So obviously in the beginning, we were a much smaller company. So it was more leading yourself. And, that was one of the things that I had to kind of keep myself in check of, I'm no longer rolling up to somebody. I'm no longer responsible to anybody. I had to be responsible to myself. So I had to learn to manage myself and set my own hours and all that. And then as we've grown, I recently hired probably my first really senior manager. He runs my engineering side. And that's one of the things I've really worked on is staying out of his way, right?
Yeah.
We have a great relationship, but I was so tied in before that it's like, okay, wait a second. If this is going to be effective, I need to let my managers manage, right?
Right.
But yet still stay aware of what's going on.
Well, it's good that you have that background because you do probably understand practically everything that you guys are doing in your business.
Right.
Even though you don't have to know the nitty gritty of what buttons that are being pushed and settings or whatnot.
Yeah, that's been a big focus. I'm not supposed to be the smart guy in the room. I just need to know enough.
That's right.
Yeah.
If you're the chief customer service officer, it means your business is probably going to do really well as the leader. So you were just talking about some of the managing your own hours. Obviously, I'm so glad it's in the past now, and hopefully it never comes back. But your business changed a lot over the last 3 to 4 years.
Definitely. COVID was interesting because unlike a lot of, our clients and other, businesses in the area, we we never stopped because, especially that first 30 to 60 days, all of a sudden, hey, we need to be remote. Oh yeah, we've been talking about this for, a couple of years that you should have that ability. Well,
Right.
okay, well, we need it now. And so, I joke and I tell people it's like that first couple months, I would wake up in the morning and go, I have to like stop and think and go, oh, what day is? Oh, okay, it's Wednesday or it's Saturday because it just didn't stop.
Didn't stop.
Yeah, which is a good problem to have because again, we were very busy and one of our largest customers, we actually picked them up during COVID, and took them on board. It had nothing to do with COVID, but in this chaos of things, here we had this client, and when we first started talking to him, we actually had no idea the potential of the customer. We were just chasing a referral, and went on board and kind of did the way we normally did things. And then as we started talking to them more, and it was even more interesting is they hired us to do an assessment of their current relationship with their current service provider and why it wasn't working. And they told us straight up front, don't try to sell us. We're not looking to, bring you on as a service provider. We just want you to, use your experience and just interview our people and find out what's wrong. Why is this relationship not working?
Something's off.
Right.
We need an expert.
And, and we went in exactly like that. And we interviewed everybody from their side and everybody from the client side. And we came back and said, listen, it's both of you. They're not holding you to the process of ticketing and, everything. And you're going around the process, right? And you're not holding your internal people of how to open a ticket and how to, do this. And so it's both broken. And, we presented to their ownership group, and, my partner he's very direct and to the point. He doesn't sell. He just says how it is. And
logic comes easy with the IT folks.
And they came back to us like 2 weeks later, and it's like, can you give us a proposal? And we're like, what? I thought you didn't want. No. We would like to get a proposal from you guys. And,
nice.
And then that was the start of it. So, and it's been a fun ride for the last almost 3 years now.
And so that's still your biggest client?
Yes, it is, which makes life interesting because you've got a customer that wants to do business with you and wants, to, give you more and more business, and
in a growing industry,
in a very growing industry, literally. And, it's you're putting so much time into them. You've got to watch the rest of your business because, I've worked for another provider, and almost the same exact thing happened. And they signed a very large client, and it was very profitable. But one of the things that happened to them is they lost focus on the rest of their clients that had grown their business till that point. And I can remember, clients going, well, and they would, say the client, well, why are your guys spending so much time on da 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 da? And I'm like, how do you know? And it was the help desk or the service desk going, oh yeah, we're working on this and this and this. Instead of going, okay, you guys are working on this, you guys are working on this. So unfortunately, they lost focus on that.
So have you taken those lessons and used them in your own business to make sure everybody feels important?
Everybody counts the same. Just because they're paying, they're paying us more. We try to be cognizant of all our clients, and we've slowly started separating some people within the team and going, okay, your focus is here, your focus is here. So that's one of the things is we're having growing pains because we have grown so quickly. We can't do business the way that we did 2 years ago, even a year ago. We're having to they talk about within business you hit those plateaus.
Right.
And if you don't recognize them, you can quickly, implode on yourself. And that's kind of where we're at. Like, me hiring a senior manager, that's a sizable salary, increase for me. So that was a big payroll, and it's paid over and over and over. It was
Right.
well worth it. So you've got to get past that part, okay,
I have found that in a service business myself, that early on, it's tough to write those big checks to
Yep.
those top people. But as you can bring them on, the very, very top people, when you're providing that environment where they want to be, maybe they don't have the entrepreneurial spirit. They just
Right.
want to be a part of a team. And that's great because you can take good care of them, but then it pays back many times over
Oh.
in leadership and mentoring and just performance with your customers.
Yeah, we've had, for the most part, we've had a very low turnover. The few that we've had have come on quickly, not fit in the team, and moved on quickly. So we've got a lot of people that have been with the company as it's grown, and and they've grown with us. I've hired people that weren't even in the industry. One of the, it's interesting. I've got 3 engineers that were in the hospitality industry that wanted to get into engineering. And I can guarantee you, majority of service providers probably wouldn't even have given them the opportunity. But I was looking at it more of, if you can handle a drunk patron at your bar or upset hotel guest, you're probably pretty good, taking care of a client that, is upset with something with IT.
That's definitely one of those silos that's incredibly important, is how well you deal with customers.
Oh, definitely.
Right? Because the skills a lot of times can be taught.
Right.
Most
Empathy
most time they can be taught. Sometimes it can't.
I'm a firm believer. Empathy can be improved, but I don't feel like it can be taught. It's kind of it's a trait that you have, and obviously
EQ.
if you've been in hospitality for a while, it is a trait you probably have.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you guys, your business transformed overnight. What percentage of businesses out there that you guys are dealing with, or are you seeing in the industry, that are doing a hybrid schedule or a completely remote workplace where they might not have 5 years ago?
So right now, I don't think any of our clients are doing completely remote right now. Probably maybe a quarter of them are doing a hybrid schedule of some sort. But majority of them have returned back to office.
That's good. And do you think that's a trend that's going to keep skewing that way? Or do you think we've reached some kind of a terminal velocity when it comes to that?
I don't think, it depends on the company, right? But I don't think we will ever go back to a point where there is just no flexibility whatsoever. Like ours is a in-office position, right? With the flexibility, hey, if you need to work from home for a couple of days this week, or you need to do this or whatever, all our tools are, available remotely, and they can do their job remotely. But our company, it's a collaborative. We've got a lot of different levels of engineers, and when you're all kind of working together, you overhear each other, or you can quickly
turn the chair around,
right, and go, hey, I heard you talking about this. This might be a solution in the future, or I ran into this, because, I'll have guys going, oh, what should I go learn? Right. Like, don't worry about learning something until the first customer asks, because when the first customer asks, it's going to get asked again. And guess what? When they come, somebody else asks that question, you're going to be like, oh yeah, this is how you do it. Da, 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 da. And it's interesting, because as a business, that's kind of how we've been. That first year was definitely interesting, because I was more on the sales side, and I did a little bit service provider, but we had to really learn to become a service provider. I had my ideas of things,
right.
And so where we've come in the last 6 years is night and day. Just even from last year, the things that we've learned in pieces. So, it's definitely an industry that it's you're always growing and you're always learning, which to me makes it fun.
Well, I mean, being in digital marketing at our firm.
Oh, that's even
crazier. It goes pretty fast. But I mean, there's crossover between my industry and yours, where, we have to know about phone systems as well.
Right.
You have to know about networks and phone systems and CRM. We also have to know about CRM. There's obviously AI is a big deal these days, right? I mean, famously, just out of nowhere, this open AI platform with this chat GPT is all of a sudden now being able to write better than a human and communicate as well as a human, you can even ask the thing to write a poem for you. And it'll bust out as a Dr. Seuss poem. Like you could say, I want to do it in the style of Dr. Seuss. How do you see some of those technologies affecting what you do?
So we're already looking into it on our ticketing system side, because obviously a lot of tickets that come in from clients, because for us, you can submit requests for help multiple ways. You can send in an email, you can go to our portal, or you can call.
Well, that's why I brought it up, because you said your you talked to your person. You said, don't wait to learn until you get your first question. You probably get a lot of questions over and over again.
Yes. Yeah. And so what happens is, what we're looking at is on the ticketing side, right? That when the customer, submits a ticket, it hopefully, if it works correctly, it's going to look at it and go, "Oh, I kind of recognize this already." And
it feels like this answer.
Yeah, we have a knowledge base that we've already started creating, and we've been creating for years, and then it can go back and hopefully give a quick answer, going, "Hey, is it a print driver? Have you tried this? Have you tried this?" Da, 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 da. And then if the person goes, "Yeah, I've tried all that," boom. Then it goes to a live person. So that way they get a very quick, response.
Right.
But at the same time, I never want to my customer to feel like they can't get to a person, right? Because that's one of the things I do pride myself in is we're very personable. I'm not offshoring my service desk. You're not calling India or the Philippines or, so you're getting either somebody here, or we have a shared help desk among the, our franchises up in Virginia that we utilize too. So you're always getting a live person if you call. So I feel like the AI piece, we've got to be careful with it, because we don't want to rely on it tremendously, but we definitely want to integrate it as much as we can to be a tool. And then potentially, utilize it to help us write help desk articles.
Sure.
Right. Put in the main points, and then it goes through and, and writes the article. Interesting thing is I found I forget what the website is, but there's a website where you can take what it outputted to you, because I guess apparently if you put it in you can pop it in and it'll say, "Oh, it's easily you can tell that it was computer generated." Mm-hmm. There's actually a website now, you can take the output, put it into the website, it then rewrites it, and then makes it so it's almost impossible to tell that it was computer
You'll have
generated.
to tell us. We'll have to look that up after the show, and so we can add it to the show notes. But that sounds like a really good tip. Yeah. I know that they can, like, a lot of times copy can get graded on like a grade level.
Right.
Golly. So things are moving so quickly.
That piece of the world is just, the fact that Microsoft put in $10 billion into that, and they've already integrated it into Bing for at the desktop level.
I saw an article today that Google is actually freaking out because of the threat.
Yeah, theirs is they have one that they're building,
right,
and it's failed more than a couple times.
No, not only has it failed, but it's not as good as the Bing one, the OpenAI one, because OpenAI is with Microsoft. It's not only is it not as good, but even the rollout of their competitive product was a complete failure. Right. They didn't see the Bing one coming.
I don't think anybody saw that one.
And then out of nowhere, they tried to quickly release and things like that, and they're having like all this blowback. It literally is happening right now. Speaking about relevancy,
right,
it's happening right now, and we're seeing it unfold right before our very eyes. So you mentioned what you own is a franchise, right? And you mentioned knowledge bases.
Right.
There are a lot of benefits when you become an entrepreneur of plugging into a proven playbook, all the support that comes out of a corporate office and doing the franchise, versus like just getting out there with your own machete and in the wild and doing your thing. You chose to do the franchise route.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about that decision process and that journey for you.
So when we were thinking about launching, one of the hardest things as a service provider is, why should I go with you? Never heard of you. I've never heard of this. So why should I trust you? So where on the franchise side, it had been an established brand. It's interesting because the company that owns my side of the franchise is the same company that started Sir Speedy, which is the most popular print franchise in the world. You can't even buy a franchise. You have to buy it from an existing owner.
Wow.
So they know what they're doing. And, with TeamLogic, it was, they had, at that point when I came on board, I think they were right about a little under 100 franchises. There was, 8 or 9 in the state. Now we're over 270 in the state. They're coming up on 30. So, but that was part of the thing is they had the playbook, which for me being in the industry kind of knew it a little bit, but obviously it gave some spin. We also have an internal intranet, with all the owners, and everybody's all the owners, even though you're competing against each other, we're all still willing to help each other. So we, there's some of us that have partnered up, and then what we can also then do is we can reach out to them and kind of have agreements. If we have a customer that has offices in other locations,
multiple locations,
we utilize them. Our large customer has 160 locations through the U.S.
That seems like a major advantage and a good reason why you chose the franchise model.
Yeah, and it's actually one of the selling points for our larger customer. Even though we probably take care of 90 to 95% of the service within my office, because we can do a majority of the stuff remote, or if it's a project, I can send somebody there. There's still that 5%, right? And that was definitely a selling point for them, right? They knew that we were a little smaller as an office, but as a combined group, I think we're in the top 30 in the world with service provider wise. If you look at the overall revenue, it's probably the number I had heard was over 100 million.
Almost seems like for you, it was a no-brainer.
Yes. There's definitely some things that, as a franchise, you're limited,
Sure.
One of the things I really did like is, they have a complete marketing department so that, I didn't have to worry about a website, but at the same time, I have really no input into that website. I kind of have to go with what they do. So that goes both ways, right? But it's one less thing that I have to worry about running the company.
No, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, even for us to keep up with our own marketing, and we're a marketing and advertising company.
I'm sure.
Talking about customer service, a lot of times we're the plumbers with the leaky pipes. We're spending all of our time worrying about what our customers are getting and not really worried about us.
And we do the same thing with
customer.
technology. I mean, I was just talking to my, one of my engineers about something that I was having a problem with. And I'm like, why am I having this issue? We're a technology company.
Yeah.
We should be pristine and everything. And it's just not the way it is. So yeah, it's the same thing. It's like you do what you do. And, one of the things that we really focus on is everything that we push for technology wise, we probably use it internally.
Sure.
So it makes our guys, better. We can service pretty much anything.
Right.
But if the customer asks us for certain things, we've got certain products that we recommend.
Yeah, it's your go-to because you're most familiar with them.
Like one of the things that we try to do is we try to treat all our customers as one enterprise. Meaning that, we standardize them on network gear. We try to standardize them on desk,
Sure.
And so what you get that benefit, we warehouse products, so that way if something, if a firewall goes bad or a switch goes bad, we probably have it sitting in our warehouse. We can't, stock 10 different kinds,
right?
But we can stock 2 different kinds that are the primary ones and so then, then we can just swap it real quick and then, get the one repaired. So
that's really important for redundancy.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So last question. If I am a business, or if there's a business out there that's shopping for an IT company, right? So just put on obviously you're the best, but like, what are the questions? What are the things that I would want to know about an IT company when I'm making that selection? Right.
So, and there's a difference. Are you looking for a project-based IT services company because you've got a single project that you want to do?
You need a new Wi-Fi or something.
Right. So with that, I mean, you're looking at experience and you're looking at the engineers and how many projects they've done and how well they know the technology.
Sure.
We're more of what they consider a managed service provider.
Right.
So we're a company that if you're 10 users or to 100 users, and Bob from operations has been, over, you're doing your IT stuff and you've gotten
Yeah.
past his,
He needs to focus on his job.
right.
Yeah.
So we'll come in and we'll basically take over your technology and your network and manage it. So, there you're looking, okay, well, who's going to support me? Where are the
About what size of a company does that normally take place? Is it around like?
I would say the magic number I see is 20 to 25 typically.
Yeah.
Under that, they have a hard time spending the money. We have a
Right.
minimum spend to engage us. It's not significant, but when haven't been spending money on IT on a monthly basis,
Usually it's a lot less than having an IT person.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, it's significant. But as an owner of a small company, all
a
of a
brand
sudden
new
you're
cost.
like, yeah, it's a brand new cost.
Yeah.
And, I always talk about when, one of the things with me being the owner is I understand.
So
Right.
ask them if they do projects or if there's managed service or both.
Right.
So you
Ask them
should
where their engineers are based.
Okay.
Where's your help desk at?
Mhm.
How do you handle help desk calls? How do you handle after hours help desk
Mhm.
calls? Because obviously that's important. Your company really never stops, right? Yes, your hours might be 8 to 5.
Well,
but-
IT never stops. Those
Right.
things are always on.
Right. So, what happens when your email goes down over the weekend, or your sales guy is trying to do a quote and he can't get to the server, or, whatever. So, how do you handle those calls? Is there somebody that's answering is going to answer the phone or answer my ticket and get back to me in a relatively quick
Those are
manner?
important considerations.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are important things. And then I hate this, but referrals.
Sure.
The best thing you can do is, go and get a reference and ask them for different types of reference and see how they're, because I can tell you I'm the greatest in the world and I can tell you that everything you want to hear, but you're giving that trust, based on what, for customers, a lot of times I like doing an initial project, because then they get to see how we operate and how our engineers are. And it's kind of like a dance.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times IT companies won't even take a project.
Right. And I will take on a project if there's potential, right? It doesn't have to be like, oh yeah, we're going to, if it works out, we're going to do. I just want, hey, is it something you're thinking about doing? Yeah, we're thinking about doing it. Okay. Let me come in. Let's do this project. You can see how we operate. And then there's not a lot of surprises.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, that's really, really good advice. Where can we follow the success of your business?
So our website is logicit.team, and that will point you, or if people listen to the MJ Morning Show, we're going to have a good relationship, and I'm referred to as Don the IT guy. And we actually did a website. It's Don the IT guy,
Nice.
dontheitguy.com, which points you back to the Logic IT. So it's an easy one to remember.
That's great. Well, we'll check that out and follow
definitely.
you there. And you can follow us anywhere where podcasts are found. You can find us on the lawofrelevancy.com podcast, as well as the Bake More Pies website. Don, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me today.
You're welcome.